I'm strong in faith.
Faith can move mountains. Radio Maria, 91.3 FM.
The voice of truth.
All right. Hello, good afternoon, Abuja, and good morning, good evening, depending on what part of the world you're joining us from today. My name is Bella Ann Ndubuisi, and I'm back here on the 91.3 FM Radio Maria, the voice of truth, to bring you Active Citizens this Friday afternoon. I hope that you've had a phenomenal week. My week has actually been incredibly awesome, but very busy. I've been very blessed to have two visiting guests from other countries here on the Africa continent. One of them is here at the studio with me, and I'm super excited to be hosting my dear friend on the show this afternoon. For those of us who are joining us for the first time, you know that, well, for those who who tune in regularly, you know what this show is about. But if you're joining us for the first time, you know that this show is one that seeks to inspire our listeners and our audience to become more active in their community and to think about what they can do to make a difference in their community. So one of the things that we do is to highlight and spotlight citizens who are already doing things like this across different sectors. Last week, we had the pleasure of hosting guests in the medical field who were, engaging in their communities to shape a better healthcare system for Nigeria. And today the conversation is going to be centered around peace. And I have my very good friend visiting all the way from Liberia. She's the executive director of Messengers of Peace Liberia INC. It's a nonprofit organization that is led by young people. It's youth-led, and they're focused on peace building, on peace education. And they've received several different awards for the great work that they're doing in Liberia and globally. And we are so honored this afternoon to have this young lady in the studio here with us. Her name is Gwendolyn Myers. Ladies and gentlemen, give her a round of applause. I'm up right here, actually. Gwendolyn, welcome to Nigeria and welcome to Active Citizens.
Thank you so much, Bella. And the loving people of Nigeria, thank you. It's always really good when I'm in Nigeria, and the hospitality, of course, is always amazing, especially when I was thanking the hotel, where we are having our events for the youth peace and security experts. I was really thanking those guys and said thank you, for taking care of us and making sure that we had a great time, and in between the different coffee breaks and everything, so that everybody were concerned, why are you thanking them? They should be the one thanking you. I'm like, no, because you think it's just about coming here and having the meetings, but all these little breaks in between, and the fact that these guys have been here throughout these meetings and really making sure that we can have snacks, we can have everything. You might say it's their job, but the fact of the matter that they're doing this, and serving us is something that we should be able to say thank you. So it's that kind of energy. It's that kind of
This
spirit.
is a true reflection of who you are, Gwendolyn.
So,
the understanding that it takes gratitude, and when you appreciate people,
yeah,
for what they're doing, when you see them, then they tend to do more. I think that's remarkable that you highlighted that.
Yeah.
You mentioned briefly what you're here for. Actually, do you want to talk a little bit more about that? What brings you to Nigeria? This is your third time in Nigeria, correct?
Yes.
What brings you here this time?
Third? Yeah.
Yes,
Right.
the third. I've been tracking. What brings you back to Nigeria this time?
Okay, so this time around is the round table. So it's a round table meeting with the youth peace and security experts on the continent. So the African Union Commission working on the youth peace and security agenda. So we are actually planning, there's a whole lot of conversations been going on globally about how important it is to include young people in peace building, especially around this time. And then instead of just doing the usual advocacy, so this time around we're moving a step further, not just advocating, but in terms of getting, real concrete efforts and initiatives on ground, but it has to be from a national level. So it's not just one individual, or an organization doing something, but that whole systemic approach of taking national ownership. And that's what the National Action Plan. So Nigeria was the first country actually to have a national action plan. And so that's what we came over to learn from the Nigerian perspective, how we say their steps and processes and everything, so that we can also be able to know. And even though they were the first country, but it's always good for best sharing practices and all of that to also be able to help them too in terms of the implementation. So I think that was just what they call the meeting of experts. So we're just here to be able to see how we can move to the next level.
This is actually good to know. The idea that some of these high-level policy formation processes actually have young people at the center of bringing those processes together, because we often think that young people are neglected, but this is actually refreshing to know that the African Union is having this conversation. They're bringing youth experts working on this issue to help set the framework and the agenda for the conversation around young people's engagement in peace. So that's refreshing. Maybe I should ask you one thing. In what practical way do you think young people can actually be engaged in the peacemaking process?
Well, so it starts first with that commitment. So as a young person, you definitely need to be able to say, first pledge your commitment, your loyalty, because it's a process. It's not just an event where you just say, okay, today I'm going to work for peace, and that's it. So you must have that inner, there's this desire that I really want to do this, and with the values and principles of building peace. So hard work, honesty, trust, all of these different principles around peace building. You must, so usually that's how even we recruit our volunteers, which we will talk about later, what we do. But yes, we look at those key peace values, and that is really important for us. And once you have that, anyone can work for peace. You're a young person, once you have that within yourself and say, I can do this, I'm an honest person, and I think I'm committed to this with integrity and everything, you'll definitely be able to raise your hand and say, I can definitely volunteer for peace and development as well. So because we definitely have to be able to practice what we preach. And that's what is important. And as much as we say peace building is everybody's business, so mind you, it doesn't mean because, everybody, you cannot have it all. But even if it's just one thing in the inside of you, we need that, on this journey for peace. So it's not like, okay, maybe I'm not honest. Maybe I don't have integrity. Maybe I don't see myself like that. Yeah. Someone will probably be wondering and say, okay, I don't think I see myself with everything. But even if it's just one, that you can be able to say, I think I still have a desire, I have this passion. I would definitely want to see communities at peace. I want to see societies at peace. I mean, once it's that willingness from inside of you, then you're good to go. So
it's so important what you say, that peace is everybody's business, because what is development without peace?
Exactly.
Right? And I know that you've been in this work for peace for over the last decade, for more than 10 years working in this. As a matter of fact, in 2018, the president of Liberia recognized your effort, and your organization was awarded the George Manewiya National Prize in 2018 in celebration of 15 years of unbroken peace in Liberia since the Accra Accord, Peace Accord was signed. What does peace building mean to you? And what inspired you to actually explore this path?
So, first, it's really humbling. And for the first National Peace Prize that was actually given in the country, celebrating 15 years at the time of a broken peace since the Accra Peace Accord. It was really humbling. It's something we didn't even see coming. I think I was actually on a mission in Accra when we got the call, and you definitely got to come. You got to come over, and I'm like, come over. What's happening? And there was this whole big ceremony taking place in one of our counties, provinces. It was in Grand Bassa. I think I remember in Buchanan City, Grand Bassa County. When they had this Kukatonon, we are one peace festival. And then I know all the preparations were being made for it and everything. But then I'm like, okay, usually with these global missions where I go to speak to different countries and then work with different national governments, local governments, and youth organizations on the same youth peace and security agenda. And then there was this call and I was like, but it's not possible at this time because I don't even know what, but obviously some of the volunteers and the staff of Messengers of Peace, they will be at the event. And I remember saying, yes, even if I'm not there, Gwendolyn is not Messengers of Peace. I mean, there are other young people in the organization. They will definitely be there. And they were like, please make sure that we have representation. And I'm like, but this program is always happening, this festival every year. Why is it this time around? Like, we have to. So I'm like, okay, that's okay. And I showed, the culture ambassador because she was the one who made the call that time. And then I said, yeah, I'm an ambassador, definitely. We will have volunteers of the staff. And she's like, someone who can represent you, Gwendolyn. And I'm like, anyone I'm sending to represent the organization, there's someone we trust, so you don't have to worry, ma'am. And that was exactly how I was in Accra with, I think even at the time, the next person to me who's in line, my assistant, Elizabeth. Elizabeth was even on the mission with me to Accra, I remember. So in fact, we had to send, I think, the program officer and I think, in fact, I think it was the finance or the networking person. So we were in Accra after the event we had. Elizabeth and I, we went to our Bunibura camp and engaged Liberians there because we tried to connect the diaspora community also to peace and security and peace building and security work. So that was the whole purpose of that mission as well in Accra. And then I remember when we just got, on our WhatsApp pictures with this, the president unveiling this prize and everything. And I'm like, what's going on? And they just kept sending them to our WhatsApp. And they were like, because they call me Edie, like executive director. Edie, we don't even know. Just Edie, please, can we speak? And I'm like, okay, what's happening? And that's how when I remember my teammates call and they were like, oh my God, we didn't see this coming. Everybody in the hall were asked to stand and to honor and for the president to unveil this.
Wow.
And then I'm like, oh my God. And that was something really touching. And people started reaching out. Even that night on WhatsApp, different government officials and it was really interesting. International community partners, they were all reaching out. It's something that really went so well. We were given the first ever, so in the history of Liberia, the first ever National Peace Prize that was given to celebrate the work of peace builders. And this is something we said, we communicated, I remember in the communication back to the president, so we're to thank him. And then I said, this government has rebranded peace in a way. Peace has been branded now with young people. It has always been with our mothers, our fathers, but this was a clear message to say it is time to recognize what young people are doing. Because for him, and I think that was what they really highlighted the work of Messengers of Peace, this group of young people who going from community to community in the trenches, working, the Jehovah Witness approach, door to door, knocking, on the homes of people just to sit with families, to be able to have a conversation or a dialogue on sustainable peace. We probably moving on top of a moving vehicle and we're just there with speakers and all of the amazing ideas and innovation you can think about. And I was like, this is something that is in a message and it's a way to encourage young people that you might think what you're doing, people are not looking. But hey, people are watching everything you do. Right. Just keep doing it. You never know. You never know who's looking. You never know who's watching. Just keep doing it. And especially when you're doing this work and not expecting anything in return, it's when you really see a lot of things happening, and God in his infinite mercy is always making a way where there seems to be no way. So I think this is one foundation as an organization and even for me as a person. And that is why I'm actually leading on this campaign with a hashtag that says, by faith, she leads. And that by faith, she leads is a clear manifestation that this joining for peace, it is not just the peace as the way you see it, but it's this one that surpasses all understanding. This is a peace of Christ. And this is what we bring to the entire peace and security work at national, at global level or at regional level. So it's not just ordinary peace. And that is why when we gave a message, it's one that will inspire. It's one that will touch lives. It's one that will mend broken hearts because it is a message of peace from Christ. And we're proud to wear our ambassadorial badge of Christ in the work that we do.
Okay. Wow. You have Gwendolyn, I mean, you said so much in the last few minutes. One of the things that I want to reiterate for, especially young people who are listening is that, whatever work you're doing,
Yeah.
just keep at it, right? Because
Yep.
you never know who's, watching, you never know who's listening, you never know who's paying attention.
Yep.
I thought it was remarkable that you were in Accra
Yep.
in 2018
Exactly.
when you got a call, that your organization was going to be
If I didn't even say it.
yeah,
They
the
just said,
organization was going to be
Yeah.
recognized
Yep.
for 15 years of peace,
Yeah.
and this accord was signed in Accra.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel
Exactly,
like that
Bella.
was pretty.
Aha.
That's actually,
now we're talking about it.
yeah.
I'm even trying to, yes, I like the way you're kind of
It's-
connecting the dots of
yeah,
it.
it's-
So meaning I cry, yes, that was the very point, or the very place
Yeah.
that agreement was
Where
signed.
it all started.
And then you were called, you were on your way back to the same Accra, or you were in Accra, when the government of Liberia said, listen, we're going to thank these young people. So meaning we were not part of it, because that's the thing, right? We were not part of that whole signing, but come on, we've been doing stuff. Our mothers, our fathers, they have been doing the work.
That's the other thing I want to touch on. So you mentioned now that you were not part of, the signing of the accord,
Yeah.
right? But you have the mothers and the fathers who were.
Yeah.
But I think it's also, incredibly poignant to note that, now the mothers and fathers have done their work.
Yeah.
And now you have young people who are taking over from where the
Continuity.
mothers and fathers stopped.
Yeah.
I want to go back and ask you, what was it about what the mothers and fathers did? What was it about, the situation in Liberia that inspired you to start the Messengers of Peace? Did you have any of these mothers and fathers as mentors, as people that you looked up to, or that guided you on this journey? Take us through that journey.
So the thing is that the whole thing about Messengers of Peace, or this whole joining, is a calling. So I'm not gonna sit here and tell you probably it was some mentor who was in peace building that said, hey, come and let's do this. But it's a calling, because it's important to know my undergrad is in biology and chemistry. So meaning I was actually on my way to becoming a medical doctor. That was the whole plan with my family, because my late father said, you will do great, Gwen. You score the grades. You'll make all the points. Do this thing. You'll be a fantastic doctor. And I'm like, okay, we're going to do this. Let's do this, But all along, our friends and some colleagues will be like, Gwen, we don't see you in this thing. We when you speak, even in the classroom. So even there was a particular point where, reference, and I didn't even know my dean was paying attention to that. So when this opportunity came for me to go to the U.S. to do our graduate program, my graduate certificate program, and I saw it in the reference, I'm like, oh, really? Some people look at these things. She even said, there was a time we had a situation on campus. I had to run for Gwendolyn from the biology class to come and do that mediation with students and faculty. And I'm like, really? You mean that little thing that I was just in between, and this is something that these people were taking to be really serious? But that's the thing, right? It is a calling. And when you have a calling over your life, whatever you do, Bella, it's going to find its way. Even if you're refusing that call. And that's the thing, what I say, it's deeper than the way we see it. Because from that spiritual context, if a calling is on you, even if you try to escape, there will always be the way. God will find something. He either called you the hard way, meaning if you want to play easy, you go easy. It's like a child who say, I'm going to be stubborn. And if you're stubborn, get ready. Because when he's calling you, he has everything to get at you and still use you for his purpose. So I knew exactly. And how I was called is like with everything I've been doing here, biology and all over the place. But then listen, he got me when I was in school in Mother Patern, doing the biology at some point. I was sick for 6 months. 6 good months. In fact, everyone thought that it would have been a dead body in no time. And it was actually within those 6 months that I went through a whole transformation. Body and soul. I saw things. Deep revelations. A lot. Giving hope to people. Just being able to take a message and give to his people. And then I realized, because he wanted me to get to a point, Bella, that with all these years, travels and everything, the honor, the recognition, you will not see all of them as in your name. So that 6 months is where he was preparing me and say, listen, my young woman, when you get off this bed. So it was an agreement. It's like you're battling life and death. And then that's what I realized, and I said, I will serve you. So meaning when you're playing hard to get, he will catch you. He has his own way to catch you. So sometimes I'm here to just tell us, not all the problems that we have in our lives, on our journey, is a way that God is not there. Sometimes he allowed the very forces of darkness and things to disturb our movement because he's communicating something. And that is why in spirituality, we are not too attentive. The very obstacles that we see on our journey could just be part of the handwork of God to open doors and to get us closer to our destiny. But we need to be really wise about it. We need to be attentive to these things, because the doors that are shutting down before you, when probably you see things not working, because it's like, my son, my daughter, be still. But only when you can see in between, in the midst of the obstacles and all of the chaos that is surrounding you, if you can be still and see and glorify him, it's when he make a way.
That's right.
Where there seems to be no way. So I always tell young people, whatever faith, whatever denomination you come from, don't overlook the power of religion in what we do.
And
It's
this
important.
is the second time in this conversation you're saying, where you're talking about God making a way where there seems to be no way. It sounds like that has been a pattern in your life, so to say. Wow. One of the things you mentioned as you were speaking was about being more attentive to our minds and to our thoughts and to what is being revealed to us. And it reminds me of, I think it was earlier this week when Father Uloma was on Catechist, and he basically talked about, the same thing as well. We have to be a little bit more, we have to think more. When things happen to us, we have to reflect on it, think about it. Maybe this is, God is trying to send messages to us, but we're not being attentive. We're not thinking about that.
Yeah.
When you told me you were coming to Nigeria, I was really excited. I think it took me a few days to actually get it in my head that you were coming to Nigeria. And I told you immediately when I saw that your visit fell around the time when we're going to be having this show. I asked you to be my guest, and you very kindly obliged. And then I asked you, what we're going to talk very casually. I said, what are we going to talk about on this show? What do you want to talk about? And you said to me, you want to talk about love.
Yeah.
I was
It
like,
just came out.
Okay. I mean, I actually thought she was going to say like peace building as the, global peace. I expected something like grand, right? But you just said love. And that struck me. And then you went on to say, because there can be no peace without love.
Yeah.
Right?
Definitely.
I think I don't know if you should open up our phone lines now or maybe continue the conversation. Right? So open up our phone lines now, but let's talk a little bit more about that. When you say there can be no peace without love, tell us a little bit more about the thoughts that were running through your head as you made that statement.
Okay, so I remember when you and I had this conversation, and it just came out of me like that. Like, okay, we're gonna talk about love. You're right, and I went on to say, it is not possible to talk about, you cannot have peace without love. Likewise, if there is no love, there is no peace. And it's really important because we're talking about us being active citizens and, in whatever way, being patriotic and everything. You can't do that if it's not on the foundation of love. How do you become active citizens? It must be love for country. Okay? It must be love for country, and a country that's not just in terms of having that territorial control and say, this is our country, but it's love for one another, love for the people, love for our communities. And it is a foundation that most times we overlook the principle And it's what probably still getting us into the situations that we are in right now, as country, as region, and on a global level. Because Bella, like when we started the conversation, you heard when I say how I was thanking those guys at the hotel for the service. Things like that. How do we become active citizen? When even your brother next to you, you do not even see that person as a brother first or as a sister. It is love. Because the way I see you, that doesn't mean things won't happen. Things will happen. Conflict is inevitable. We always say that no matter what you do. But there is something about conflict we need to appreciate. Conflict in itself is unique. I know people who are not in this field, they get confused when we're telling people conflict is really necessary. But it is. But it is the ability of how we manage the conflict and transform that conflict to something good. Because mind you, Bella, you and I can be here. Everything can be going well. We can be like, oh, we're good to go. But we need this little misunderstanding that will come for me to be able to truly appreciate those things that matter to you. And you also can appreciate what really matters so much to me as a person. It is in conflict. Because most times when everything going well, watch out. Sometimes I tell people pretense and a lot is also underneath. I'm one person who whenever people hailing me too much, I start to watch my back. Yeah. The reason for that is like you're doing everything just right. Watch out. Because when everything just going fast and just right, it's when sometimes you are not mindful to some underlying mistakes that you are taking for granted. Probably you're stepping on people, you're stepping on toes, but you don't even know. So it is that point of consciousness. It's a way to reflect. Yes, I might be doing everything right, but am I also making sure that people around me, everything okay? How often do we check with our colleagues? Just that question. I'm one person who asks people, whenever I see you and say, hey, how are you? Please do not just answer me in a hurry.
Right.
That how are you is a way to reflect. I'm asking you that question to really check internally with yourself and give me an honest answer. So whenever I see people, I'm like, don't just tell me, oh, I'm okay. Oh, tell me how you really feel. Right. And if I would just spend a minute or so quickly and just give people a hug. Like this morning in our meeting, I said, and people take these things for joke, but that's the energy we want to bring to a space. It is love. I said, I know we've been here for the few days in Abuja. We're so exhausted. But hey, guys, I'm just here. If anyone in need of a hug, you're not feeling too fine today, I'm just here to really give you that hug. And this morning when I said it before we could start the meeting, everybody was like, Gwen, I could see some of my colleagues like, okay. And then two persons walk up to me and I could see even when I leaned my shoulder, they might not have said a lot to me. But from that little interaction, I could tell there was a lot they were actually passing on and getting out of their system just from that little embrace. These are the little things we should be attentive to people around us because, Bella, there is no point of this life we're living if it's not meaningful. There is no point of lasting peace and development if people are not satisfied. If the needs of people are not being met, if people are not feeling that they are part and parcel of the process and everything we are doing to bring about development. How many times? It's just little things. Our leaders, we're talking about active citizen. What time do you take to just have our leaders just go to a local community? It's not even just for election. This has nothing to do with election time. Just walk next bar in your community and just sit with the people. You don't need, they make the mistake thinking the people need stuff from them all the time. Bella, it is just that way to say, hey people, I just stopped by today to just say, hello, how you doing? I see you. If our leaders do things like this, you realize the very people, Bella, will be the ones even bringing the ideas, the innovation Because that is the thing about facilitating, even what we call in mediation, we're not there to give you the solution. We're just there to facilitate a process. And the people themselves will bring everything to the table that they need. But most times we just think we're doing these things because, oh, when I go to, they want something from me, or probably they will expect something from me. It's the way we, I was doing an interview recently for something that is coming up.
Maybe Gwendolyn, hold that thought. I just realized I haven't read out the phone lines yet.
Okay,
So
no
we've
worries.
opened up the phone lines, but the number to calling is 081 084 475 18. 081 084 475 18. You're welcome to give us a call, send us an SMS or WhatsApp message. Be a part of this conversation on love as a panacea for peace building globally. Give us a call to join our conversation, 081 084 475 18. We'd love to hear from you. Okay, Gwendolyn, so back to your thoughts.
Yeah, so I was actually saying, and they were interviewing me, and they said, oh, tell us, have you been harassed in your country before? Like this work you are doing at the front line. And I was actually telling, the team that was doing the interview, and I said, listen, there's no need for all that. And I could tell in the interview, they were like, why you say so, Gwen? This work you do is one that is risky, is one that is... I said, no. Because here is the thing. My approach is different.
We have a caller on the line.
Yes, we should. No problem.
Hello, good afternoon. Please, what is your name? And where are you calling us from?
Good afternoon. My name is Juliet.
Hello, Juliet. Where are you calling us from, and what? Hello? Did we lose her? Juliet, please, what's your contribution? Oops. All right, Juliet, if you can hear me, please give us a call back. We would really love to hear from you. Okay, so Gwendolyn, back to you.
Yeah, so I was like, there is no need for that because we're building peace here. We're not fighting. And, when you are doing this where you are not leading yourself, but like I said, it's from a faith angle, then you don't get to speak into everything. You speak when it is time to speak. And I think it was also part of our conversation these few days in Abuja. We know, some of our colleagues, experts, were exchanging ideas and views on these things. And we understand, a lot some of them go through. And we're also there to also provide the guidance to, and that was, something that was very helpful. When one of my colleagues actually said it, and I'm like, well said. Because in this work, being a human rights activist, being a peace builder, they're two different things.
Right.
You want to be, human rights activists were said. They're there to stand up. Our work is to build peace. So even from the human rights standpoint, we take that into consideration. We bring all of these different actors and factors and everything they're talking about. And our work is to bring them together and find a solution. We're building peace. So when I told them during the interview, I said, no need. Because again, another thing, when you work with people, that kind of style where we had a conversation, I think yesterday or so, you remember, when you work with people and it's like a family-oriented thing, why should I be worried? Because even if there's a danger there, it's going to be the same people who will come back and say, hey, man, watch out. It's the way we treat people, Bella. It's the way we interact with people. It's okay. Speak your mind. It's okay to get angry. It's okay. But then build it about it. It's like in no time, release that positive energy. And that's the thing, people get confused. So sometimes they'll be like, okay, Gwen is so bold with these things. But in no time, as soon as I'm done with it, I tell you what it is you need to know. It's over. It is left with you. You want to hold it? That's you carrying that negative energy. It's not me. Because the thing about here is, Bella, I can't be carrying the spirit I'm carrying in the inside of me. And then I'm holding on.
I think it's so important. Okay, we have a call on the line, but after the call, we're going to get back to that point. Hello, good afternoon.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for calling back.
I called earlier, but I think it was a network problem.
Yes, we can hear you, Juliet.
I've actually been listening to you guys, and I'm actually blessed by the topic today.
Thank you
And
for listening. Can you
I'm
turn
thankful
down your
to have
radio?
guests.
Can you turn down your radio? I think we're getting some feedback.
Okay, let me turn it on. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
Okay, I don't know if I get sorry, I didn't start on time. I didn't start listening to you guys on time. I don't know her name, but I've really grasped so much from what she has said so far.
Okay.
And I don't know if it's possible for me to get to meet her because I really have a lot to. I think I need a shoulder to lean on. All of these things. I have so much in me that I would like to pour out, and I think she'll be in a good, better
Oh.
position to help.
Juliet, where are you? Where do you live?
Abuja, stay Abuja.
In Louis. So, Gwendolyn leaves tomorrow,
Okay, so it's
but
okay.
she leaves tomorrow. That's her name. But here's what you can do, right? Are you on Instagram?
Instagram, yes.
Okay, so go on our page on Instagram underscore at underscore active citizens, right?
Okay.
Follow us on Instagram, send us a message. If we're not able to get you to meet with her, actually I should let Gwendolyn I mean, I'm sure she's open to it. When you were speaking, she was awing and eyeing. But if we're not able to get you to meet with her today, she's actually copied on the handle on the post that we made most recently. So you can definitely follow up with her from there.
Okay.
But we'll be in touch. Send us a DM. We'll try to make the connection for sure.
Oh, quickly, please, I would like to ask a question. I'm sure she's listening,
She's
right?
listening, yes.
Okay,
And
please.
the next voice you will hear is her
Talking about,
voice after your
okay, we're
question.
talking about peace and love.
Mm-hmm.
And when you want to give peace a chance and you're being taken for a fool, drawing a line is it a bad idea so that you won't be taken for a fool?
Okay.
Thank you for
Like
asking.
saying, no, I can't do this anymore because I've been taken for granted. You're not saying no, whether there is peace or not, I am not going to do this anymore because I've been taken for granted. Is it a bad idea? Is it wrong to think like that?
All right, Gwendolyn, the floor is yours.
Okay. So, all right. Thank you for calling, and I feel it. I understand. And if you are really attentive to what we're doing right now, and I know you were there, you were listening, I just want you to know you are not alone. Yes, it's just a matter of the wavelength, the airwave, but I'm just right here. And just imagine that as you have let out, I'm just giving you even the hug of the shoulder. And as I'm saying this, I'm feeling it because it's manifesting for myself. I'm probably taking on the burden that you were giving. This is something I'm going through right now as I'm talking to you. You have a shoulder. Embrace it. Receive it. I'm sending you love. You are appreciated. And all those problems, trust me, they're going to go away in time, in God's time. Take them one step at a time. Give them up to God. Look up to Him and hold on to Him. Don't leave Him. No matter how tough it's going to get, hold Him so tight. And remind Him that He created you for a purpose. And while you are also reminding Him, appreciate Him for the storm and everything you have right now. Because very soon, once you start to appreciate Him in the midst of the storm, doors will open. Those burdens will be taken off your shoulder. But just from this encounter, if you put it and apply it by faith, I'm sure you're going to call Active Citizen and tell them one day, and very soon, it's going to be manifested. So, in terms of the question you asked about whether it's okay to say I don't want to do this. If people, probably taking you for granted or you've taken too much. Listen, this is how I always tell people to approach this. Whenever you do it, you gave a lot. Make sure you convince. I always say my Heavenly Father should be convinced that I did everything I needed to do. So meaning it's not just one try, you leave it. I know it is draining, but trust me, whenever you're doing the right thing, the peace that you get from it, I've gone through this over and over. Yes, you will feel drained in the process, but there's a place where you will draw the line. But make sure you have made every attempt to making sure that that situation is handled, or there is peace and harmony with you and whoever involved in that situation. And if they fail to understand it, my dear sister, I always say it is not on me. Then the records will be there with Angel Michael and Gabriel that, hey, Gwendolyn, you've done your part. That's all I'm looking forward to them saying, we saw your effort. You play your part. And I draw the line, and it's okay. Drawing the line doesn't mean it should be confrontational. So you can draw the line, and sometimes it's good to give space. Giving space is not a bad thing, but it's the way in which we give the space. You can give a space to a situation and still pray for someone and still send a positive energy to their direction. I might not be talking with you daily, or I might not be speaking with you because maybe there's a little issue, but in my spirit, I just need to be very positive with you. And I can send you love. Because here is the thing, that that approach, I know sometimes young people are like, how do you do this, Miss Myers? Whenever people talking down on you or talking bad, always, and I'm saying always, speak good of them. Yeah? So when they are taking time to say the negative about you, find the positive in the inside of them and speak that about them. When you have conversation with people, when you're speaking with your friends, or even people who just make sure to find one good thing in the inside of them and see that level of spiritual elevation that will give you. And that's what they won't understand. How probably they're still in the same position, but you are way ahead because it is your spirit. It is that attitude that we need to take on this journey.
Wow. Gwendolyn, I think that is Juliet, if you're listening, I hope that spoke to you. It certainly did speak to me. And Gwen, it's interesting because yesterday at dinner, what you just shared right now, you said the same thing, is as much as possible try to highlight the positives.
Yep.
In people. How many times do we do that? How many times do we do people do things to us and then we assume the worst and say, oh, I'm sure they did this because X, Y, and Z, and it's all negative, right? Maybe you invite somebody to come to something you're doing and they don't show up, and then you assume that it's because maybe they're offended by something you did. Meanwhile, it's possible they didn't even get the invitation to begin with, or maybe they had something going on their own side that was even more, overwhelming for them. That prevented them from coming. So if you're a listener, paying attention, it's important to keep that in mind. Think the best of people at all times. And Gwen, it's funny that we're talking about love today, and I think love is such a powerful command. It's also such a difficult, thing.
It is.
To apply. I mean, I guess it's easy, but also it's not easy, right? And earlier today you talked about conflict and that people would always have conflict. And I almost, paused you to say that even before we got to this show here, this afternoon, 10 minutes before we picked up the mic and got on this show, we both had like a little bit of conflict. But can you tell that we had conflict?
No.
Absolutely not. Because guess what? Our relationship is bigger than that single conflict. At the end of the day, I still love Gwendolyn. And when I think about love, I think about patience. I think about kindness. I think about all the things in 1 Corinthians chapter 13 from verse 1 to 13, which is such a, I actually consider that, that one of my favorite, verses in the chapters in the Bible. And it was one of the first that I learned as a child in catechism. And I think I'd like to think that it has guided my life so far, but again, I'm human. Sometimes I err as well, but I have to remember that, that's God's definition of love. It's, right? It's not.
It's deep.
It's deep. It's not occasional. It's not when you feel like
No.
it, right?
Yeah.
It's regardless of the
You
situation.
gave. It's something that is just, it's just flowing from the
Yeah.
inside of you. And like you said, if you truly love, Bella, that's what usually we say. There was, love keeps no record of wrong. We sometimes take these things, but it's the, when we're saying it and applying it to our lives, probably in relationships and all that, we take it for joke, but it's the truth.
That's right.
It's not a thing where you hold on to the wrong thing or the mistakes. It's like, it's that free flowing spirit, but it comes deep from inside of you and just radiates. It's like something like you just give, and you just want to make sure that that person is just okay, it's just happy. And like you said, you're right, who would believe like, okay, we're on our way and we had our own, of course that's normal, but here is it.
Yeah.
Bella and Gwen, like, because it is love.
It bears all things.
It is love.
Believes all things. It hopes all things. It
That's it.
endures all things. It never ends.
And that is why most times, even if we apply this to relationship, you'll see people get confused. And I'm saying this also for lovebirds out there, because it's like sometimes your colleagues and friends ask, what is about this person? Because people who monitor the different ups and downs you have in a relationship, and then you still see probably those two people still finding their way to each other. They're still trying to make effort. And people, sometimes society won't understand, and the people around us, they say, oh, that person taking you for granted, that person. But real love is something that you don't even see things like that. Mind you, I'm not talking about abuse. That is different. But where if there's misunderstanding, because you see the person for who truly they are.
That's right.
And you embrace them, you accept them. And that is something that no one would do easily, because they are not feeling that which you are feeling. And that's what sometimes all the judgmental, sentiments and everything come like, why are you doing this? Why you want to do? But it is love. It is a foundation that is built on love.
That's right.
And most relationships don't last, they don't survive. Why we even see today in the church, marriages, why we see people just falling apart, why we see relationships, too many divorce. Why you think all these things happening? Because yes, love is two-way street though.
Right.
In as much, but there is a thing, even if it's not coming from the other party, if you who carry that thing called love,
You still have to give
you
it.
still have to give it. But that's what Juliana came in to ask the question about how you draw the line.
That's right.
Sometimes people can get space to kind of see how things will change. But that doesn't mean in taking that space, because that's another thing. When people take space, it's not for you to start to say the worst. How is it to love someone and then just because you had a misunderstanding? I don't get it. You had a misunderstanding and people come to ask you about that very person and you start to say the worst about that person. How was it? Was that even love in the first place?
That's right. That's right. Well, our phone lines are still open. 081-084-4751 081-084-4751. I'm still here in the studio with Gwendolyn Myers, the Executive Director of Messengers of Peace, Liberia, INC. We're super excited to have her in the studio. She's a peace activist, and the last few minutes we've been talking about love as a center point for global peace. And Gwendolyn has shared a lot of deep insights with us. If you're a caller listening in, please call us. We'd like to get your thoughts on this subject matter as well. 081-084-47518. Gwen, it sounds so simple that love, if there is love, then we're getting closer to solving the problem of peace in the world, right? It's such a simple idea, but is this something that peace activists have recognized, and how has this been? Is this something that is embedded in peace education? Is this like a foundation for peace education? I know that one of the things that Messengers of Peace does as well is, I know you have, first of all, more than 1,000 peace volunteers who are working with you, but is part of your messaging and part of your education around peace building, is it centered around that?
Bella, first of all, I mean, it's a very good reflective question you asked. So it's important to say on this platform that if you're doing this, I told you it is a calling. And that is the reason why everything I'm saying will probably sound different. Because trust me, we go to the United Nations, we go to all these, the war body, and this is exactly the message that we take. I sit on their platforms wearing my Jesus emblem and everything, because these guys don't see it like that. The way the peace they're looking at is not like the way, I'm saying this. That kind of peace, yes, we want no guns, silence of guns, but that's what we're telling them. We're taking another message and saying, if it is not personal, then it is not the real peace.
That's right.
So that the reason why I'm able to say this, I could probably be the same way, only looking at it on the paper, on the books. But the reason I'm saying this is because of what I'm telling you, the transformation that I went through. It's a calling. So meaning I'm only giving out that which has been placed in the inside of me to give out to the rest of the world through this mission as a messenger of peace. Not just an ordinary messenger, but one who has a calling on their life. And the reason I'm saying this because we'll look at it. Of course, we'll do all the theoretical part. We'll do all everything. I mean, come on now. We'll do all that. We understand it. We'll map it. We'll analyze it. We know what it is. Negotiation. We'll do all that. But underneath all those things we're doing, I'm very keen on, it is not just about all these papers and blueprints. What is all this to people if it's not meeting them at a point where they can have that inner satisfaction?
That's right.
And that is the message we're taking on, to bring a different narrative to this journey for peace. Yes, we will do all the peace deals, we will sound the agreements, but at the end of the day, we should be able to give hope. We should be able to give shoulders to people. We should just be there for people. And that is important. So I agree with you when you said this is a foundation of messengers of peace. This is a message. This is what we give to these young people. And that's exactly what they are doing in their own communities and in their families. Because what we teach is what they carried out and what they themselves do. But
That's That's right. Gwen, for those who are listening, so we have this show as a platform to tell the stories of active citizens who are leading change in their communities. We want people who are listening to hear their story, to be inspired by their story. But the next thing is then we want them to go forth and do something in their community. So we expose them to different people across different thematic areas. Today we're talking about peace. For a person who's listening and wants to get involved in peace building work, in peace education work, where do they start? Whether it's what are the resources available to them, and just how do you advise that they start? Because we always like to tell people, start from where you are. What does that look like?
Okay, so you don't have to start it the very big way. Just do something small. We started Messengers of Peace with just a handful of young people working in schools. So it could be you just starting first in your classroom. Start with your friends. Start to tell them the same message you're hearing. Start to pass it on. And they will take you like you're joking. Trust me, it's always going to be like that. But don't give up. Right in the school, volunteer. Reach out to school administration and tell them you want to help to do something. Even if they don't give you the go ahead, do it. Sometimes don't follow the too much bureaucracy of asking all the time for a seat. Take a seat. Or sometimes put your own chair, bring your table. You don't need to wait for all that. If you see conflict even right next door, the next classroom, jump there. Help them. Start to do things like that. And maybe in your community, put some young people together, even if it's one or two. Start to just educate people on the importance of communities being at peace. Start things like that. And always reach out, like what Bella was saying, reach out for help. Follow people. Use the internet for the right reason. Reach out to these people who you admire and just drop a message and say, and that's the thing. You're not reaching out to say, oh, ma'am, sir, I need money, I need something. That's the thing that usually put people away. Ask for help to learn. Can you help me? Can you make me understand this thing? So things like that, things people always want to jump onto and help. Start like that. Even if you don't have access to them, follow them. We'll learn from people who are doing this work. It's not just I always say not to just like and comment, but really follow through their journey.
Right.
And these are just the little steps I will say you will take. And then once you start like that and be very consistent. So we've been doing this thing, like what Bella said. I think this year, September, will make it 15. Yeah, 15 years now doing this work. Okay, 14 years. I'm probably trying to celebrate the 15, but 14. And that's something that is consistency. To be a young woman leading peace building work for 14 years is consistency. So many people don't know you for anything else. They know you for that particular cause and that particular mission.
That's right.
It's not today I doing agriculture, tomorrow I jump to doing education, tomorrow I jump to being an engineer, the next day we continue to see these things in youth development work. Be focused. Let people know you for a particular sector. And that consistency is what matters in this whole thing.
That's right. Be consistent, find a path, follow your path, start from where you are.
Yep.
Gwen, what final thoughts do you have for our listeners before we wrap up the show?
Well, I just want to say it's been really great, having this conversation. And for me, I think whenever we have platforms to just talk about the amazing things and how beautiful it is, just the fact that we are part of God's creation, it's wonderful. Just knowing that we are part of His creation, we are existing on earth, is really fantastic. And that is something, and it's all part of the beauty of the positive energy. You got to first be grateful that you are part of His creation. Sometimes I know it's crazy. I talk to people and they are like, I don't even know why I'm existing here. I'm like, first, you don't even realize the importance of being on earth. But again, I can't blame them. It's all the frustrations and everything in this world, Bella. People, it's not easy. Let's be real. And that is the reason why we need people to just give out this kind of energy. If we just give love, just make people happy. Just make people feel good about themselves. Just appreciate people. And that's all we're just on a mission to doing. And I just want to encourage you, people, you have gifts. Pray for deeper understanding of your journey. And let God reveal it to you.
Amen.
So that you understand that you are not just on this earth, but there is a purpose for each and every one of us. And this is not a competition. We're here to support each other.
That's right.
Nobody trying to be the superstar. Just do it. And when you're doing it in a sincere and honest way, the superstar and everything, the Holy Spirit, that's what I say. There's one thing, there's no protocol for the Holy Spirit. Just do this work. Right. Everything that is happening, I made it to Times Magazine as top 8 young people in the world, top 7 for Africa, top 6 for the United Nations. Come on. This is a child who was born and her mother could not even afford a blanket to wrap her in as a baby. So imagine that. This is the same child who begged her father to take her to the airport just to see how inside an aircraft looked. Can you imagine? But this is the same child that
now
today
you've been to aircrafts and traveled around the world.
Exactly. So it's not about how you came into this world.
That's right.
I was a child that was born that even when you see you pack clothes and carry for the baby. No. It's the midwife gave her spare dress to my mom. So many, it's not that one where you're born and they're showering you with gifts. No. But today, I know my mother usually would tell people when I'm buying something, she said, let Gwendolyn buy it. Because you don't understand. She didn't get this. But it's not about how you came into this world, people. Be happy with your journey. And then, my last word. The families you come from, be grateful for those families you come from. I know many times we're thinking, oh, why I didn't come from this family A, family X, that is. Trust me, it's because of that family. God has a reason and a purpose that He placed you in that family that you do not want to be associated with. Maybe the very family you're probably thinking they are not useful to you, you will be the one that will become useful to them. And it's because of that background that is going to lead you to the destiny that He has for you. So we need to be mindful how we understand these things, okay? Don't see it like it's the worst family I come from. In fact, thank God for placing you in that family you see to be worse. Because it is based on all that shakara thing they're doing to you. And that's what God's going to use to give your destiny. I appreciate God for that.
Wow. I wish we had like an additional hour to spend on this show with you. It just means that you have to come back to Nigeria, Gwendolyn. Just so you know, you have to come back and you have to come back on this show. But before we wrap up, for the culture, I have to ask you a question.
Oh.
Nigerian jollof rice, or I wouldn't name the other country, but
Liberian jollof. Liberian jollof. Liberian jollof.
Okay, you failed that question.
No, Liberian
that was the
jollof.
test, but you failed that exam.
Well.
But really, I want to thank our listeners today for joining in on the conversation. What an enlightening, powerful session we've had today. Gwendolyn Myers, joining us all the way from Liberia, Executive Director of Messengers of Peace, Liberia INC. What a treat we've had today. And I think for all of the things Gwendolyn has said, if there's one thing I would leave us all with, it's just that have to remember that if there is no love, there is no peace. So as individuals, maybe your takeaway from today is think about what are some of the love acts you will start today to implement in your community, in your family, because charity begins at home, right? So beginning with your family, what are some of those things you're going to start to do differently? To begin to change things within your family. How are you going to lead these kinds of movement in your community? Thank you so much for listening to our audience. For our new listeners who tuned in today, Juliet especially, who called in today, thank you so much for your question. I hope we see you next time on our show next week, 4 o'clock, same time, on Friday. In the meantime, feel free to join the community of active citizens on social media. We're on @_active citizens with an S, and we're also on Twitter with the same hashtag. And on there, you'll be able to find Gwendolyn Myers today, because we copied her on the flyer that we posted today. And we also want to ask you to join Radio Maria on the social media platforms as well, at Radio Maria Nigeria-Abuja on Instagram. And videos from this show and many other shows are posted on YouTube as well, Radio Maria Nigeria-Abuja. Thank you so much for being a part of our conversation today. I hope you enjoy the rest of the week until I come your way next week, Friday, 4 p.m. My name is Bella Ann Ndubuisi, signing off from the Office of the Citizen. Good afternoon.